This is Black Music Scene, brought to you by the Black Orchestral Network, an archive for Black classical music, connecting the hands that carried us to the voices that will shape our future. These are conversations about craft, legacy, and the work that carries the music forward. This is Black Music Scene, cultivating community, lifting our voices, and telling our stories. Welcome back to Black Music Scene, a show where we explore the journeys, brilliance, and cultural impact of Black artists across the classical music world and beyond. I'm your host, David Norville. And today's guest is the extraordinary mezzo-soprano, Jessye Bridges, a Grammy Award-winning artist whose work spans the major opera and concert stages of the world, while also pushing deeper questions about truth, visibility, freedom, and what Black artistry can continue to ask of the world. I am so very excited for this conversation and to explore what it really means to make art with conviction, to resist being narrowly defined, and to imagine a fuller future for Black artistic life. So without further ado, please, everyone join me in welcoming to Black Music Scene. Jessye, welcome. So glad to have you here.
Thank you, David. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Oh, the pleasure is certainly all ours. I want to introduce you to our audience and allow them to get them to know you a little bit more. I'm wondering, for those who may be meeting you for the first time, how do you describe yourself at this chapter of your life?
It's always a great question. So this chapter in my life, I feel very confident. I feel confident with who I am as an artist, but first, even before that, just as a human, as a woman, as a Black woman, I feel very grounded in myself. So I'd like to describe myself as grounded. I say what I mean what I say. Whatever one word you can sum that up as. I'd like to also say that I'm inspired, hopefully also inspiring, but I'm very inspired at this point in my life. I've accomplished so many of the goals that I've set out to do, and there are many more. But with those accomplishments, I've asked myself recently, okay, what else? You know, like what more do you want for your life? And there's so much more. And it's, again, I feel very inspired to, kind of tap into those next layers of who I am and what I see for my future and my present.
I see.
I'm pretty easygoing. I'm an Aquarius, so we flow.
Okay. Yeah, definitely.
Air sign. If you're into that, but yeah, I mean, I think my friends would describe me as pretty easygoing. A little bit. I don't want to say unpredictable, but I kind of, rather than, my preference is to go with what I'm feeling. So at this point in my life, I don't really do anything that I don't want to. And I feel, yeah. And that's really in every aspect. I don't sing roles. I don't do projects that don't resonate with me. My friendships are very real. I've just really established boundaries in every aspect of my life. And I just think it's so important, this is a concept that I don't think my parents always set boundaries, but we never really talked about it. But just, having lived life and had experiences and worked on myself, I realized that boundaries are kind of everything. And it starts with self. So having those boundaries for myself, within myself, has just really shaped my life in a way that I feel free. I feel,
Yeah. It sounds like it.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, there are things that I'm hearing already that, to me, show a level of course, experience, but also health and rootedness. And I kind of want to dive into that a little bit more. I mean, this idea that everything that I'm doing right now, I want to do, that sounds like freedom. That sounds like empowerment. Take us through a little bit about where we find you in this current season. What are some of the things that you're really excited about? What are some of the sort of ways that maybe the world around you or your goals are asking you to maybe either level up or refine? Yeah, take us through some of that right now. Where is Janae?
Yes, I love that you said level up, because this is kind of my theme in this year, but also just the season of my life.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm currently performing with Washington National Opera in Washington, D.C., and I'm singing the role of Elizabeth Proctor from The Crucible, based off of Arthur Miller's award-winning play. And it is a fantastic production, incredible cast, and very relevant to our times. The Crucible is, it's about the Salem witch trials that happened in the 1600s, and just delving into the score and the character, we're kind of very much in similar times in terms of mass hysteria, lack of due process, not knowing what to believe. And so it's been a really interesting and I'll say fulfilling project. And these are the types of projects, whether they be newer works or, traditional works as we know them. I always want to do projects that resonate and have the audience members walking out thinking about their position in the world and how they can be better.
Certainly.
So that's coming up March 21st through 29th, which I'm really excited about. And then I'm headed to Atlanta to perform with the Catalyst Quartet, which is very exciting. Doing some Elgar, and Florence Price is on the program as well. And then I'm very excited to debut Carmen in my hometown of Seattle, Washington, which is very exciting because I've sung Carmen literally all around the world and have yet to sing it for my people at home. So as you can imagine, my parents and my family and village and community are just very, very excited. And as am I. It feels almost... I've made huge debuts with this role and sung in some of the most prestigious houses and institutions, but going home feels like the highlight of my career, if I'm honest, because it's where I was shaped, it's where it all started. Yeah. And so for me, it's kind of like a thank you, this is what you all poured into.
Wow.
So it's really special, and it's going to be a big deal.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And I'm so excited for you. And I mean, excited for everyone involved. And this idea of homecoming is something that can be so sacred and so deeply personal and enriching. And there's so much that you shared just now that I want to dive into. I mean, whether it be this idea of the power of storytelling in music as it relates to how we introspect, but also how we look at our society. Let's put a pin in that. And also this idea of homecoming and this idea of what it means to do this music thing for people, whether it be folks that you grew up knowing or folks that you might not ever see again. There's something so transcendent about it. I want to plug into home a little bit more for several reasons. I mean, there's so much about that I've read about your upbringing that's so interesting, whether it be being a great basketball player or, being exposed to music through your father. I want you to be able to share that story, and also talk a little bit about how your home base in certain ways prepared you for what the work that you do today and how you navigate life today. How did the village, how did the community and home base sort of feed into where you are now?
Oh my goodness. I can wholeheartedly say that I would not be where I am today without my home base, without my village, without my church upbringing. So I grew up in the AME, African Methodist Episcopal Denomination, Allen AME, Tacoma, Washington. From a very young age, I think I was 3 years old when my parents joined that church. My father was in the military, and so that's how we landed in Washington State. And they decided, oh, this is a great place to raise, children, and great schools and everything. So the church was very foundational for me because that's where the music started. I mean, I sang in the children's choir from, I think, age 5. And so that community and that environment, it planted a seed in me that I didn't even realize was being planted, let alone would grow into what it is now. So my parents are just fantastic. They're truly incredible parents. And I was a part of so many different programs. I mean, yes, church, that was a whole thing. Sunday school, church choir, YPD, which is Youth People's Department, it was a thing. So there was a church family, but then there was also the sports aspect. We played tons of sports. My parents wanted to just kind of expose us to as much as they could without obviously overwhelming. So we had sports. I also played washed up piano from a very young age as well. So I've always been super integrated in so many different facets of life. Because my father was in the military, my parents just traveled a lot, mostly before I was born, but the travel bug was planted in me from a young age. So we would go to Portland, which is only 2 hours away from where I live. And we'd take day trips to Portland, and then we'd go to Hawaii on vacations because it's not too far, so I think it's like a 6-hour flight or something. And we'd take those big military planes that could fly anywhere around the world.
Okay.
So I remember they took us to Europe and just exposed us to as much as possible. And because my parents aren't from Washington State, my mother's from Baltimore and my father is from Georgia and Florida, they didn't have blood relatives in Washington State. So they created a family there and a village. And so I mean, it runs so deep. It's so deep.
Yeah.
And my village, it extends so far. I mean, yes, mostly in Washington State, but because my parents are from the East Coast, I have so much family there. And because my dad was in the military, literally all around the world. So there's nowhere that I can't go where I don't feel supported. And I'm not even in a sorority. It's just, it's my parents and the foundation that I was brought up in. So I went to Manhattan School of Music for my undergrad, very last minute kind of thing, but it was meant to be. And my father, he kind of admitted to me later in life that he was really nervous for me to go to New York City. I'm from small town Tacoma, Washington, and I moved when I was 18 years old across country. And he was nervous, but my parents always supported me and all of my siblings. And I told him, I was like, I know you're nervous, but you have to know that you raised me right, and I'm ready for this. New York is a crazy city, but I'm grounded, and I've always felt that way, Of course, I haven't always been who I am today, but I've always felt a sense of grounding and safety, and that safety really comes from my family and village. Like I and God, I always just felt very covered.
Yeah.
And no matter what, like I always knew that I could go back home, So the village, my family is just super important on many levels, but I think mostly because I've felt equipped to just do whatever I want to do in life. I've always had a sense of confidence. And I think that really does come from being set up,
Yeah.
The foundation of knowing that I am enough. And also I will say that being from Washington State, I was always one of maybe the only Black girl.
Yep.
And so of course I had my, people in church in my community in that way, church and Jack and Jill, and my mother's an AKA. So, but my schools were always predominantly white. And so with that, I remember in middle school, I think I was maybe 12. I did go through a little bit of an identity crisis. And my mother pulled me into the bathroom. We looked in the mirror and we said all of these affirmations. And that was really, really powerful. And it shifted my perspective.
That's powerful.
Yeah, super powerful. And then there was a group called the Sisters of Vision that my aunts, my kind of village aunts and mother created. And it was just for that. It was for Black girls in my community to affirm us of our beauty, physically and internally. And it really, really helped. It was a very, how do I want to say? Yeah, Sisters of Vision. I mean, we had an affirmation statement that we would start every meeting with. And we quoted.
And this is middle school? You said?
Yeah, middle and high school. High school. Yeah.
Okay. That's such an important time.
Exactly. And so Sisters of Vision was just amazing. And I'm still friends with some of my my Sisters of Vision, and they support me and I support them. And many of them have come out to just do amazing things and be amazing women. So all that to say that nothing scares me. I feel very just equipped for life. And that's because of the foundation, my family and my village.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, that's so powerful. There are so many things there that bring me a feeling of warmth, bring me a feeling of inspiration. And it's something where, and you said it yourself, this idea of feeling protected, feeling covered, and being able to take that confidence, with you. It's something that I wish for all Black people, in particular Black women, as we're having this conversation now during Women's History Month and thinking about what it means to navigate a general space as a Black woman, but particularly in classical music as well, So I kind of want to plug into just a little bit that idea of going to conservatory, because that's a very particular thing, very particular experience. I myself gone to the New England Conservatory, many alike who have, gone for the last however many years. I want to talk about that transition from Washington State to Washington Heights, all the way up on 125th. And I would love to know for you, what about that time? What was that a moment of pressing on the gas? Was that a moment of culture shock? Or really, what did that transition feel like? And how did sort of that time in New York in MSM start to set you up for what then followed in your life?
Yes, to all of that. It was definitely a culture shock. New York is so beautifully diverse.
Yeah.
It was new for me. And different types of Black people from all over. I'm just, my world and my mind was blown and open. It was just so amazing. My roommate was from Trinidad and Tobago, and I learned so much about Trinidad. And I really want to go, by the way. That's on the bucket list. But yes, it's on my birthday next year, so you'll know where to find me.
Okay.
Yes. So yes, culture shock in that way, and also just in terms of the mentality. West Coast is very different than the East Coast, and New York is different than anywhere. Yep. It's vibrant in a way. It's real. It's raw. When I first got here, I was like, these people are rude.
100%.
And that can be true. But what I've really come to realize is they're just like, okay, the time is ticking. What do you need? What do you,
Of the essence, for sure.
exactly. And so some of that has rubbed off on me. I'm still, I'm still a West Coast girl at heart, but
For sure.
it just shifted being at Manhattan School of Music. Yeah, it just really added so much perspective to my life, which then I really believe it informed my artistry. I came to MSN with a really blank slate. I didn't start singing classically until I was the end of my junior year in high school. And actually maybe the beginning of my senior year. So I wasn't one of these musicians that had been, singing classically from a very young age. Piano was always in my life, classical piano, and also, church choir. But I felt behind, when I got here, I was just like, oh my gosh, I feel so behind. I'll never forget that first sing through when we had to all sing one song for the entire class. And I was just so nervous because everyone was seemingly, for me, so polished. But with that, I remember thinking, okay, I didn't get into this school for no reason. I'm here. I was also an athlete. So the competitiveness, I was like, okay, I gotta level up. Yeah. And New York was my playground. So what better place, to be, to really just discover than New York City. I didn't have money, but I would save my little coins, sit in the nosebleed seats of Carnegie, the Met, Avery Fisher, Dizzy's, Rose, Auditorium, Rose Hall rather. And yeah, just, I learned how to really come out of my shell. And also just being at MSM with so many different types of people with different backgrounds, it really allowed for me to grow in the empathy department and just be understanding and hear perspectives of people. Because when you're from a small town, and I mean, Tacoma's not that small, but it's small comparatively to New York. Like you just don't have a lot of outside perspectives. And so even though I did grow up, traveling some, college really just broadened my horizon and really kind of opened my mind. I had to navigate. I never really had drama in my life, and I still don't. But naturally, you get in disagreements with people, or you have roommate issues, and you have to work it out.
Yep.
So I think that time at Manhattan School of Music in New York City was just, I grew so much. I grew so much as a person. And of course, my artistry grew as well because I was just exposed to the best of the best.
Yeah. That's powerful.
Also, there were a handful of Black students at Manhattan School of Music, and we were all very close.
Who were some of those folks?
Oh, okay. Let's see. TJ, Timothy Robinson, trombonist. Chris Johnson, bass player. Bert Mason, Janine DeBeek, soprano. Sakura Myers, pianist. Who? Oh gosh, there's so many that. And then so we had the Black Student Union, and I was very active with the Black Student Union. I've always been just Black. People are like, "Oh, you're from Seattle. There's Black people out there." Yes, and we're Black.
100%.
Yeah.
Tell them.
So I was always kind of like a key figure with the Black Student Union, and we would also collaborate with the Juilliard's BSU, Black Student Union as well. So I met some people over there, and Ulysses Owens comes to mind. He's a jazz drummer. But yeah, we were tight. Chanel Critchlow, who is now, she is a tuba player, but she's now in LA and she's film scoring. So really, really cool. Etienne Charles, I just missed him, but he's an amazing trumpet player. And I'm still very much in touch with many people from MSM. So I'm so grateful for my time there in New York. And then I went to grad school in Philadelphia at Curtis, which was equally just inspiring. And it was a different thing, though. Curtis it's much smaller. It's all classical. So that was very different. And it's in Philadelphia, which is a much smaller city than New York.
Yeah.
But Curtis is where I really honed in on my craft, and I knew, okay, not everyone gets into Curtis. So once that happened, I was really, I had my blinders on, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go for it.
Oh, you were locked in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was when I realized that a career in this is what I want to strive for.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about that. There are so many different aspects of your story thus far that help me understand a little bit more about maybe your personality and some of the things you bring to the table, right? Like this idea of having a competitive edge too. Certainly important in what we do. But I think as it relates to just trying to look at yourself and say, all right, this, and this, maybe we got to get it together. No harm, no foul, but let's try our best. So I'm wondering for you, like, as it relates to your work ethic and grind, and in particular preparation, right? Because as classical musicians, as for the music that we do and the level that we strive for, preparation is one of the most, of course, anxiety ridden and sort of like, what's the word? It starts with an N.
Neurotic?
Can bring a sense of neuroticism. As right, because you look at yourself so keenly. I'm wondering, what were some of the things as you started to dig your heels? What were you particular about? And I'm asking this for those who, of course, are college kids, but people who are just on the grind as musicians, trying to be the best that they can be. What are some of those things that shifted for you?
I'll first say that naturally, I'm not neurotic. and I don't.
Good.
Yeah. It is good. I've always felt, though, that, gosh, if I were, I would be even like more on top of my game, you know? But I'm just like, I sang a wrong note. It's fine. I'll sing. I'll just do the best I can, which I think is a healthy mindset. But I have had to develop a sense of structure. Because naturally, I won't say that I'm not structured, but naturally I just, like I said, I kind of just go with the flow, and I'm like, oh, I'll get to that. I'll do that. But like, no, with classical music, there has to be a plan. You have to have a plan in place.
Yep.
I am learning so much music, new music all year. And that doesn't happen by just saying, oh, I'll just get to it. Not for me, at least. Yeah. Because in the beginning of my career, I tried that because that's just naturally how I approach things. And I found myself not prepared, which is the scariest thing ever, you know? And I'll never forget when I was at Curtis, I sang a ton of roles there, which was amazing. But I also, you know, you kind of do everything there. So I was in the chorus of La Sonnambula, a Bellini opera. And in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm just in the chorus. Like, I'm not singing a main role. Like, I'll learn it when I learn it. And so I showed up. I'll learn it as we go, like in rehearsal. So I showed up for the first rehearsal. And my coach then stopped the rehearsal. We were just singing like one of the chorus bits. And I think I was like the only voice on second soprano or first alto or something. And she stopped the rehearsal and she said, you don't know this. Get out of this room and come back when you know it. And I was so embarrassed.
Yeah.
Because I thought I was hiding. Like it was all, you know, it was a whole chorus. So I'm like, there's no way that she can hear me, you know.
Wow. Yeah.
And from that day, I never came unprepared. But
oh my gosh,
yeah,
that's mortifying.
It was mortifying. And it was my first year at Curtis. So I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh, geez.
Yep. I mean, you have to be structured because otherwise it's just first of all, scary, unprofessional, and you feel all over the place, you know. That's not just with music, you know. As a freelance, a sole proprietor, freelance artist, like I have to have everything in order, taxes and paying my management, and you know, scheduling. It's a lot, but it demands that you have structure.
Yep.
When I'm learning a 3-hour opera, I can't just learn it a week before. I'm working on that all year.
Yeah.
So I have my ways of doing that. And yeah, it's my normal now, which is actually cool because it helps with life, I think.
Oh, certainly. Yeah. There's so many transferable skills that we gain through this field. And it actually reminds me of, for some reason, the Malcolm X quote, you know, about us not being outnumbered, but out-organized.
Ooh.
And I think that there are elements about what does it mean to bring a deeper level of organization and intention and preparation in a way that empowers community. I want to stay with opera for a second and dig in a little bit deeper. November 2019 was your Met Opera debut, starring as Queen Nefertiti.
Yes.
That was the Philip Glass work, Akhenaten. I'm wondering for you, I mean, I can imagine that's a night you probably wouldn't forget. Can you talk to us a little bit about, you know, what preparation felt like for that and what it sort of meant for you in that moment to take the stage then in November 19 and sort of step out in that way?
I love this. Oh gosh, it's so unforgettable, that moment. And actually the first day of rehearsal, I remember stepping to the backstage door, seeing backstage door Metropolitan Opera, and I was already just so overwhelmed with gratitude and happiness. So it was 10 years. It was a full circle moment. I graduated MSM in 2009. And so it was 10 years since my undergraduate graduation. And I looked down at my phone while I was entering the backstage door, and I got a notice that Jessye Norman had passed away. And
yes. Yeah,
I
remember that day for sure.
Yeah, and I was super emotional, and I heard a voice. I felt her presence, and what I heard was, "It's your turn." Yeah. So I can't make this up. I mean, it was quite a moment, and I just felt like she was with me. I knew her. I'd met her. And I just felt like she was with me, and that a torch was being passed, if you will. Mm-hmm. And then shortly after, the Met asked me to sing on a concert on the Met stage, honoring her. And then I got a call to sing at her actual funeral. So wow. that day, I just remember so vividly.
Oh my gosh.
And then debuting at the Met in this African queen. I sang Queen Nefertiti. I'm like, okay, God, I see you. You know, it was really just, it was divine. And that process was just, it was so special. It's like I'd never been through that before. So I don't know if you've seen the production, but they're jugglers. It's so multifaceted. We're staging the whole thing in super slow motion. So that was difficult. Singing Philip Glass, not an easy task. And preparing for that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. The hardest thing I've ever done. Actually, no, not quite. There was this Henza piece that I did at Curtis, which was just so difficult. But anyways, one of the hardest things that I've ever done. And I came in to that first rehearsal, though. I was prepared. And yeah, it was just such a transformational debut for me. You know, it put me on the map in a certain way, I feel like. because people saw me in this new music role when they hadn't seen that before. And it's like, yeah, I can do that too. You know,
Totally.
I'm kind of smart. I actually really love it. I love new music. And so, yeah, it was a moment, you know, and everybody came out. My high school music teacher that identified that I had a voice came out from Seattle. Of course, my whole family was there and friends. Wow. It was pretty magical.
Wow. You know, I literally just heard this quote on a podcast like 45 minutes ago. Basically, you might have heard it before, this idea that coincidence is God's way of staying anonymous.
Ooh, I love that.
So thinking about how there are all these different levels of alignment, right? Like, I remember the day that Miss Norman passed away.
Wow.
I remember being in wind ensemble at NEC, and the director at the time, we were preparing for a concert that day, and he looked at me and he said, "You send it up. You send it up. You play that out, and you send it up to her." You know.
Wow.
And so thinking about that sort of idea of passing the torch as you're taking, you know, center stage, you know, thinking about that, but also thinking about that in the context of, you know, November 2019 was decidedly a very different time for Black classical musicians than, for example, the following June 2020, you know. This idea that, you know, what the pandemic and what the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all these things did for us, and how it emboldened us to shift, right? So thinking about the passing of the torch right before a global pandemic in which, you know, civil rights takes the stage once again, you know.
Wow.
Thinking about what it means for Janae Bridges to take the stage or Angel Blue to say no, you know. What does that mean, you know, for you know, Chauncey Packer, or for, you know, Julia Bullock, Lawrence Brownlee, these folks who start to step forward in that time. You know, you were one of the first, you know, classical musicians that I saw, for example, on panels talking about some of the things that we had talked about behind closed doors for a long time for fear of not being contracted again, you know.
Yep.
So I just basically want to highlight all of this importance here and honor that and uplift that. And one of the things that I'm hearing too is it sounds like there's a theme of convening. When Janae has these moments, the community convenes, you know, your people. But I also hope that you feel the larger sort of Black classical community convening as well around these moments. So yeah, I just had to talk about that because it just feels poignant, and it feels like something that we'll be reading in a textbook in 15 to 20 years.
Wow.
And it's just powerful stuff, you know, to think about that. I think about that in the context of civil rights history, you know, all of this stuff that we're talking about as Black classical musicians. And that's why we do the work that we do. So yeah, I want to continue to go deeper, because there's so much rich conversation here, and talk about something that I brought up towards the beginning of the program, this idea of opera and storytelling as a medium for that self and communal exploration. Of course, we are currently in a moment where foremost figures might be saying whatever about opera and ballet. And nonetheless, Misty Copeland will step forward at the Oscars and do what she does so wonderfully. So we don't listen to that. We don't think about them. We think about the worth and the tool and the power that comes along with that. So where I want to start is I would love to know a little bit about maybe your process as it relates to preparing a character and understanding a character and the musicality that goes into that. Might you start with plot or conflict or just a general synopsis? Whatever you feel comfortable sharing, could you bring us into that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, that was all so beautifully stated. Yeah, so my process with learning a role is quite layered, as you might imagine. I first, before I even look at a note, I read through the synopsis of, you know, the opera, and just to see, what is this about? What's going on? If I don't know it. And then I will read through the score, highlight my part, look at it, and see what I'm working with that way.
For sure.
I've started to learn my roles from the end. Yeah, backwards. It actually...
Interesting.
It is interesting. And the reason why is because it takes time for a role like the music to technically just settle. And the end of the operas are typically the most challenging. And so I'm like, let me get this in my body. Let me start this first to see where we're headed, And then, I'll work through the end and then go back to the beginning. And I like to learn a role kind of softly on my own, musically, I can plunk it out at the piano. So I'll do that. And then when I feel like I have it learned enough to take to a coach, then I do that. And a coach really helps with interpretation.
Okay.
A vocal teacher is more for the technique. And so, while I am learning the role, on my own, I will take it to my teacher and simultaneously we'll work on it, the technicalities together. Yeah. And then I add that third layer of a coach so that we can get the musicality of it and the interpretation, the style.
Wow. Yeah.
And if it's a language that I don't know, for instance, I have a Russian role potentially coming up, I will hire a Russian coach.
Wow.
Yeah, like I sang in Czech once and I was like, yeah, I don't speak this. So,
Yeah.
Working with a Czech coach or a language, a diction coach, just so you can have the right pronunciation, because the goal is for people to not know. The goal is for them to think that's your first language. It just
Certainly.
has to be spot on. So it's a lot. And it's also very expensive. All that stuff I'm paying for, by the way. Nothing, that was the beauty of school. It's like all of it was just.
Totally. Right there.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's why people take out student loans. We're still paying for it. But
For sure.
So yeah, it's definitely a process. It's a sacrifice. It's a financial sacrifice as well. And you have to love it. You just do.
I can see that for sure.
Yeah.
It feels like an act of sculpting or engineering or something that feels very like three-dimensional to me, where you're having multiple levels of engagement and analysis and figuring out, oh, this must be this way, or you must hold it this way or voice it this way, or maybe position it here.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, the voices, they used to make fun of us and they probably still do in college. Like, okay, the musicians and the singers, it's like, ha ha ha.
Oh,
but actually,
yeah.
we are pretty amazing. Like, I really like to say we're athletes. I mean, it's very athletic, just in the coordination. We can't see our instrument. So it's all feeling and everything affects it. The environment, I mean, the weather, the food that you eat. I don't have, opera singers don't have a quote unquote normal life. Traveling and sleeping in different beds that then affect the body, and it's a thing, And so if people think, oh, singers are so sensitive or extra, yeah, we are, because we have to be. It's not because some people do have big egos, but it's really not about that. We require a completely different set of things for our instruments to be at its highest function. So yeah, it's actually really interesting, and my process, it's intense. And also just like, can't get sick. Of course I do, because I'm human, but it's not ideal. So staying as healthy as possible, you know, going to the gym. I drink a ton of water. I don't get less than 8 hours of sleep. I don't. And if I do, I'm like, ugh, I feel it. Now I'm not a mother yet, so I know that will happen. But while I can sleep, I do.
Yeah, definitely enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you know, there's a lot that goes into my process of learning a role, learning orchestral music and recitals. Recitals are, I love recitals because I can really sing what I want. I can tailor a program, tell a story in the way that I want to.
Yep.
That is also a lot of work in a very different way. And then, of course, symphonic works and oratorio, and orchestral. That's also, it's another thing, you know, knowing how to have rehearsals every day leading up to a performance, and then like a dress rehearsal on the day of a performance. That's a very difficult thing for a singer, because our chords can only do but so much, you know? So the pacing of it all is something that I've had to learn. And it's necessary because you can blow yourself out. I mean, like, some people don't have long careers, not because they don't want to, but simply because they burned out, you know?
Yeah.
And that also goes back to boundaries, knowing when to say no. It's a complete sentence, you know? No, full stop. Like, I don't need an explanation, but if you do, this is why.
Yep.
But I've said no a lot. And the no comes from like, maybe my voice is not ready to tackle this role. There are different levels of roles, you know. Mozart is not easy, but it's not Verdi. You know, Mozart comes before Verdi. So you can't, it's like, it's an ongoing process, step by step. And so having the right team, you know, your vocal teacher, your coaches, management is super important as well. So that you can sing healthily, not blow your voice out, not burn out physically with all the traveling and everything. The more I talk about it, I'm like, wow, I'm pretty dope.
Oh yeah, we been knew that, but
I never think about it. I mean, dope in the sense of like, I'm still doing this because it's not easy. It's not.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, just being a Black woman in a predominantly white space is, you know, it's definitely interesting.
Yeah. There's so many places my mind wants to go, but one of the things that's front of mind right now is kind of picking up off of what you just said. Like, first and foremost, yes, you are dope. We'll just declare that now and affirm that now.
Thank you.
But I think, you know, it's interesting. One of the things I think about is sometimes you don't know that you're the sun until you cast shadows on others around you, you know, or you don't know that you're the sun until you see how you radiate and reflect off of what's around you, you know. It's like when you start to talk about it and take a step back, like, it's not only like a whole business that you're running, you know, internationally, but there are all of these mediums of exchange and insight and analysis and refinement that go into doing that on the global level, right? It really shouldn't be understated. As it relates to the mental aspect of it, maybe we wouldn't dwell on it all the time because that's a lot to think about. But that's part of the reason why we have conversations like this on Black Music Scene, to talk about that and affirm that and really say, like, this is what I'm seeing anyway. You know, maybe the sunlight is reflecting off, right? But maybe they're just on the other side of the world and it's nighttime, you know, who knows? I think I've spent the analogy, but I hope you get what I'm saying. And, you know, one of the things about, I always find it so interesting, the differentiation between like musician and singer or whatever. It's like the instrumentalist, they'll have something to say until we have to start singing in solfege, you know, or in music theory.
Thank you.
Then things get difficult.
Thank you.
Things get hard, and you're like, that's a little hard. Because usually I just have to press a button, maybe, you know, shave a reed a certain way, but singing's a whole different thing.
No, what you do is equally as impressive. But thank you for saying that.
Well, for sure. We're rounding out our hour here, and so I kind of wanted to maybe talk a little bit about, before we pivot from opera, I want to talk a little bit about how this sort of work and analysis and reading has maybe influenced your sense of the world and the patterns that we as societies fall into all the time and can't seem to break away from. I mean, there's something about, when you think about the inception of opera, when you go all the way back to like the end of the 1500s, beginning of 1600s, like Monteverdi and like Orfeo and Eurydice and things like that, this idea of what does it mean to storytell in a way that shares values and morals with the society, that is part of that technology. And I think there are ways in which people understate that and underestimate that today. I mean, opera introduces us to worlds that either don't exist, but can, shed light into the world that we live in, or worlds that we haven't heard of. I mean, what does it mean to be listening to Purcell while also thinking about the story of Aida? It brings you to different worlds. So I would love to talk about, how is that, all of that learning and research and studying of history influence the way you see the world and things like that? I mean, I just would love to hear that.
That's good. Yeah, I've learned so much through opera. I mean, every time I delve into a character, I do the research on who is this person, what time period, what world are we in? And it's just so fascinating. I've learned so much. And my sister actually recently reminded me of that because she's a mechanical engineer. She's a scientist. She's very smart. And I'm like, you're the smart one in the family. I say that. And she's like, don't get it twisted. You are smart too. You've learned so much. And I will say, like, when it comes to history, because of opera, I'm like, I know so much, including recently going to Portugal and Spain. I sang Carmen in Spain, but learning about the Moors and how the Moors in Portugal came over with their instruments. Well, they didn't come over. They had their instruments. And so I'm like, oh, okay, they brought instruments and that influenced the way classical music was birthed out of Spain. So is classical music a European art form? Like, it just really got me thinking.
Very much so.
Yeah. Very much so. And I'm just like, how did I not know this?
Well, we could answer that question, but that could be...
easily. So, no, I mean, like, my mind is just so expanded from telling these stories, so many different stories, delving into cultures, being in different cultures, traveling the world for a living and really feeling it, and being in this body, and singing a quote unquote European art form in this body, just people being like, wow. And I'm like, yeah, I do this and I do it well. So through that, I know that I've broken down just stereotypes, inherent biases. Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah. And it's just like, most of the times I'm very graceful. And sometimes I'm just like, oh, I have time today. For instance, just going through customs. I'm like, all right, what is it going to be today? But I try not to go in with that because it's like also you can attract things if you go in with a certain mindset. But I'm always prepared. So, it's just, if I have to be like, well, this is who I am. This is what I do. Oh, opera. Oh my gosh. And their tone completely changes. And I'm like, so yeah, remember how you didn't first approach me like that when you didn't know I was an opera singer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't do that again. I hope this is a lesson that you've learned. And I'm like, same with boarding flights and stuff, international. If I'm flying first class, it's just like, it's racism it's just such an illness. I'm like, oh my gosh, please heal yourselves, because it's exhausting. But I will say that with this gift of voice that I have and this career that I'm so grateful for, I feel like it's a part of my calling, to not only, sing classical music and tell stories, but to inspire people to be better, to just be better, and to also inspire their greatness in them, whatever medium that is, whether it be music or not. And I'm hopeful that I'm doing that, because I'm equally inspired by people that are just excellent, by excellence, and that strive for that. And I've had some really great role models and mentors and people to give me opportunities. I'm at Washington National Opera now, and I feel like this is one of my home companies. And Francesca Zambello and Tim O'Leary, Tim is the general manager and Francesca is the artistic director. They really walk the walk and talk the talk, This company is doing the work, and it's not from a like, all right, let's check the box type of work. It's from the inside, They are really wanting to just be equitable, and you feel it. And as an artist, that makes me feel safe, and I perform better. I mean, I'm still gonna perform well. I'm gonna do my job and do what I do, but it certainly helps when you know that your existence is really valued and even wanted. I mean, I feel desired there and welcomed, and and that I don't have to prove myself as a Black woman. I never feel that anyways, but there are some times where I'm like, like you're waiting for me to mess up.
Yep.
And so I thankfully don't feel that very often. I don't. And I think it's because that's just not how I enter a room. That's not how I am. I'm like, I don't need to prove myself to anyone.
Good.
Literally God is it. So, I think that's kind of how I lead my life. And when I do come across those moments where I'm just like, okay, here we go. I've learned to, just be gracefully challenging and really communicate. And then some things you do kind of just I'm like, I have to let this go.
Yeah.
But I still have my dignity. And so I think that's what matters. And the people that have come before us, they've always had their dignity. I think all that we've gone through as a people and in classical music, I stand on their shoulders, and to know some of their stories and know that they still persisted and still walked around with pride and dignity in who they were. It fuels me. It fuels me.
One of the things that my mind keeps going so many places, because you're saying so many amazing things that just makes my mind light up. One of the things I thought of was the basketball player Steph Curry, after winning his 4th ring. He said, I have many things left to achieve, but nothing left to prove. And I think that's kind of what comes to mind from some of the things that you're sharing. And I kind of want to lean into this idea of those who came before us right now. I mean, you know, there are folks around, including myself, who, when they hear the name Janae Bridges, that name starts to echo in the same rafters, in the same part of the hall as Kathleen Battle, or like a Marian Anderson, or like a Jessye Norman. And to me, that's a very powerful aspect of living history right now. I mean, so many of us are living through history. And that's something that I think important to acknowledge. One of the questions I had for you is, you know, can you name some of those folks whose shoulders you stand on? And if you just had 30 minutes to talk to them one last time, what are some things that you would say? And you know, I'm saying that as someone who recognizes that for some of the Black women that I mentioned earlier, there are aspects about the way they lived and what they experienced and what they went through that I think maybe only you all could really understand and talk about. But what would you say if you had just like 30 minutes in like a round table to talk to some of those folks whose shoulders you stand on?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. You mentioned Marian Anderson. I feel her all the time.
Wow.
Yeah, I feel her presence. Jessye Norman, of course, Kathleen Battle, Leontine Price,
yes,
who is, I think she just turned 97, I believe.
Wow.
She's an Aquarius.
Yeah.
Paul Robeson, you know, not just women.
Burley.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yep. Florence Price, Margaret Bonds, Undine Moore. Just so many. Adolphus Hailstork.
Yes.
So I would first of all just thank them, you know, just thank them from the bottom of my heart. And I would maybe ask them, how did you continue, you know? Because we have it, I don't think I know that me, Janae Bridges, in 2026, I have it better than I mean, circumstantially, than those that came before me. So for me, I'm just like, I want to know, like, how did you do this? How did you keep going? How did you stay graceful? And I like to think that I do that, but I just want to know, like, during those times of the civil rights and Marian Anderson selling out houses, but not being able to stay in a hotel in that town.
Yeah.
Albert Einstein would put her up in his home because they became friends, because the institutions wouldn't put her in a hotel. She couldn't go out to eat after a show.
Jesus.
I mean, I say this now, but I'm just like, I couldn't have done it. But I probably, you know, it was a different time. So, you know, I would just love to know how they were able to sing through that and manage those circumstances. I would also ask them what inspires them, even outside of music. Like what else do you like to do? What inspires you? What makes you happy? Yeah. Also, I'd want to know if there was like anything else they wanted to do in life. Like what else? Or was it always singing, you know? I would also want to know about their relationships. Like, how did you make that work?
Yeah.
I'm still asking myself that.
Yeah.
Just, I think, personal questions like that.
Totally. Yeah, because we get to talk about the artist a lot. And I think particularly for some of our legends, there are times where we can lose the personal human element, and to be able to learn a little bit more about that, I think would be so amazing. But yeah, I just wanted to know, and I really appreciate you for sharing. This has been a really exciting and inspiring, and I feel much more, I don't know, rooted right now in my own sort of little pocket of the world. I just really appreciated your insight, and you taking this time. Can you remind us one more time where we can see you on between March 21 and March 29? Just maybe if you can plug the show real fast.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. You can see me next with Washington National Opera at Listener Auditorium performing The Crucible from March 21st to March 29th. There are 5 shows. And I'm super excited to be back in DC for this very relevant and poignant opera. And then you can see me in Seattle the month of May 3rd to, I believe, May 27th. With Seattle Opera singing the title role of Carmen, the titular role of Carmen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Legendary. Yeah.
So I'm very excited about that. But I'm just so grateful to be a part of your incredible platform. I really am inspired by the work that the Black Orchestral Network is doing, and the voices that you are highlighting and just giving voice to, because I think it's very informing for the rest of the world and our community,
Certainly. Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. And just wanted to let everyone know to follow you on Instagram at Janae B. Mezzo, JNAIBMEZZO. You've been listening to the Black Music Scene podcast, a show where we celebrate and archive the brilliance, questions, challenges, and journeys of Black artists shaping classical music in real time. I'm David Norville. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.
Black Music Scene is written and produced by David Norville, with assistance from Emilio Carlo and Shania Watts. Editing and sound design by David Norville and Cam Cook. This work is supported in part by the Mellon Foundation and the New York State Council on the Arts. Black Music Scene is a product of the Black Orchestral Network. Learn more at blackorchestralnetwork.org.